Welcome to this fourth lecture on finance for non-finance. In the last three lectures, I have discussed about the following topics. Number one, every financial transaction is having an implications of inflow of fund or outflow of fund. Second, an inflow of fund or outflow of fund would be booked under the head profit and loss or balance sheet item. I have also discussed about the rule we should follow to classify an inflow under the head profit and loss or under the head balance sheet. The rule is as follows. Any inflow which is permanent in nature would be booked under the head profit and loss. Generally, inflow under the head profit and loss would be booked under the head income. Examples: business entity registering sales, business entity receiving interest income on its investment, business entity is getting rent receipt. Any outflow which is resulting in permanent outflow would be booked under the head profit and loss. Example: business entity incurring salary, business entity incurring manufacturing expenses, business entity paying interest on loan taken. I have also mentioned that any inflow which is temporary in nature, which will be repaid in future, would be booked under the head balance sheet. Example: a business entity is taking a loan, business entity is raising equity from its promoter. I have also mentioned that any business entity which is generating a financial transaction which is resulting in some outflow of today but would generate a future inflow, that would also be booked under the head balance sheet. Example: a business entity is purchasing plant and machinery. A business entity is investing in fixed deposits. Today it is investing in fixed deposit, in future it will get the return. I have also mentioned that any outflow which is happening because of future inflow has taken, for example loan repayment, it will be booked under the head balance sheet. So we have now, up to now, we have discussed in detail about the financial transactions and how and what are the process we should follow to convert a financial transaction into P&L item or balance sheet item. This session I shall discuss about a concept called double entry system and how double entry system is created. How the double entry system is created from a financial transactions. Now, what is a double entry system? A double entry, as every financial transaction we shall classify into two categories. One is called every financial transactions we can convert it into accounting entries by passing two entries. Since a financial transaction is converted into accounting entries by passing two entries, this is called double entry system. Why double entry system is preferred? Because to have checks and balances. Since we are creating two entries, the sum total of these two entries should be equal. That means entry 1 and entry 2 should be equal. So it's a kind of checking system. As we progress, you would be able to understand the benefit of the double entry system. So a double entry system says that every financial transactions would be converted into accounting entry by passing two entries. Now the question is that which would be the first entry and which would be the second entry. Here we will apply a very simple concept. As we have discussed, financial transactions are having implications of inflow of fund or outflow of fund. By applying common sense, we will first find out whether the financial transactions, whether a particular financial transaction indicates inflow of fund or not. If it indicates an inflow of fund, first entry would be debit entry. So the rule is that debit what comes in, credit what it goes out. So here what I am seeing, a process by which a financial transaction would be converted into accounting entry. A financial transaction, when it is converting into accounting entry, two entries are passed. That is why it is called double entry system. Now, what would be the first entry? The first entry For finding out what is the first entry, I shall apply common sense and find out whether the financial transaction results in inflow of fund or outflow of fund. If it's an inflow of fund, the first entry would be the debit entry and second entry would be the credit entry. Similarly, when any financial transaction results in an outflow of fund, the first entry would be the credit entry and second entry would be the debit entry. So what we should remember, debit what comes in, credit what it goes out. So we have moved one more step to convert financial transaction into accounting entry. Let us take a couple of examples where first entry would be the debit entry. A business entity registering sales. So there's an inflow of fund. Since it's an inflow of fund, first entry would be the debit entry and second entry would be the credit entry. Next, a business entity receiving rental income. Definitely it's an inflow of fund. So first entry would be the debit entry, second entry would be the credit entry. Business entity receiving interest income, business entity receiving loan, business entity raising capital. So these are the examples of inflow of fund. So first entry would be the debit entry, second entry would be the credit entry. A business entity is selling assets. First entry would be the debit entry, second entry would be the credit entry. Now, similarly, let us take a couple of examples where the first entry would be the credit entry and second entry would be the debit entry. Business entity purchasing raw material. So first entry would be the credit entry and second entry would be the debit entry because it's an outflow of fund. Let us take a couple of more examples. Business entity incurring salary expenses. This is an outflow of fund. So first entry would be the credit entry, second entry would be the debit entry. Business entity incurring electricity expenses, other manufacturing expenses. Business entity paying interest on loan, business entity paying taxes, business entity repaying loans. Now, if you see, I am giving examples which is more or less covering the entire business operations. And I'm just applying the common sense to convert financial transaction into accounting entries. Let me sum it up. First, identify a financial transaction. Very simple, apply common sense, inflow or outflow of fund. Second, inflow or outflow of fund, whether it will be booked under profit and loss or balance sheet. Third, if it's an inflow, first entry will be debit, second entry will be credit. Because we use double entry system. That means for conversion of financial transaction into accounting entries, we pass two entries. Similarly, if the transaction is an outflow of fund, first entry would be credit and second entry would be debit. So we are almost closer to understand how the financial transaction is converting into accounting entries. In the next half an hour, I promise you, all of you would be able to understand how financial transaction is converted into accounting entries. It's as easy as that. Just apply common sense and concentrate on the next 30 minutes and you would be able to convert any financial transaction into accounting entries. Thank you so much for watching this video.